December was weird, y'all.
La la la, clicky keyboard noises. La la la, keyboard noises.
2024 in general was just a blur of chaos that seemed to last for an entire decade, but December seemed particularly hectic. Maybe it's because it's still fresh in my mind, but between the holiday stuff and finding contractors for the house and the cat that doesn't seem to want to get better, it just didn't seem like there was a lot of time for me to just exist, let alone for me to do stuff that was just for me. Side note, if you're new, my black cat Willow had some sort of neck issue that's been going on since like September, and it's been resistant to treatment. I'm filming this on a Sunday, but she's got a procedure on Monday that should help a bit with the speeding the process along. And as long as everything goes well, I won't have to put a talking head in the corner. But I digress. December was hectic, seemingly more so than November, which was the first month of the 3-month writing challenge I set out to accomplish through the Pathfinders Writing Collective 2024 Writing Challenge. So, with my hectic December, what does that mean for the writing challenge I set out to do and the goal that I made to have a draft done by the end of January? It meant I didn't get a lot done, unfortunately. I was hoping to get into a groove by this point where the words wouldn't be so hard to come by and I would just be able to get it out. I wanted to get the bones down so I could have something to work with. But something was fundamentally wrong with the story as I was writing it. And while I kept trying to write and hoping that I could push through that, I couldn't. But it wasn't writer's block per se, because I knew what I wanted to write. It's just every time I tried to get it out, it came out wrong. And I'm not saying it was wrong and the dialogue's not as snappy as I wanted it to be, but like the characters were coming out completely different than how I envisioned them in my head. It's kind of like watching Vince Vaughn in Domestic Disturbance. It's not that it doesn't work, but when you're used to seeing him one way as like a comedic actor, to see him be nefarious, it's just jarring to see how different the picture you have in your head is to what you're seeing. Every character I was writing was coming out the opposite of how I have envisioned them for so long. My snarky character was uptight and overly polite. And the love interest that was meant to be really strong and defiant was crying and she passed out at one point. And the character who's supposed to know how to handle their temper and works really hard to keep it under control was just flying off the handle all the time. And just everything was off. And the more I wrote, the worse it seemed to get. So, despite the fact that I was hoping to be careening toward the finish line by this point, I did the opposite and ground the whole thing to a halt. Because why not? I needed to sit with the story and see why I was writing characters that I wasn't trying to write, that I wasn't intending to write. See where it went wrong, figure out why, and how to fix it. And the conclusion I've come to is that I didn't know the characters as well as I thought I did. This is a story that I have had in my head for a long time. And because of that, I have scenes in my mind and I know how they're supposed to play out. But those scenes are later in the story. I only knew my characters in terms of what happened in those scenes. But a good character is more than just a single scene. Strong characters are people. They have opinions and personalities and life experiences that guided them to their worldview and how they interact with others. And I wasn't tapping into that because I was thinking like myself rather than the characters I was trying to bring to life. I was writing down a situation and going, okay, this character would say this, but in reality, it was what I would do in that situation, not what that character would do. Apparently, if I have to write good characters, I have to get out of my head and get into theirs. Go figure. So I decided after much consideration to scratch what I've already written and start over, which sucks, but it's necessary. I beat myself up quite a bit about it because despite my best attempts to think positively and be gracious toward myself, it kind of felt like I'd been wasting the last 2 months. I've come to terms with it because if I'd kept on the path I was going, I definitely was going to abandon it and wouldn't even try to come back to it, thinking it was just a completely lost cause. At least this way, I'm giving the story a chance to be the story I want it to be. Now, nothing ever gets deleted in my world, so it's not like all of this is just gone forever. But I did decide to start afresh, and if my characters start to feel too much like self-inserts again, I'm gonna pause before I get too far in the story. It's not the news I wanted to share, but it's the news I have. So I may not have ended 2024 the way I wanted to, and there were a lot of things that happened this last year that I didn't expect to happen, but it wasn't all bad. I didn't expect Hurricane Helene, but surprise, nobody's going to work for a couple of weeks. Gave me a chance to pick out one of the books on my TBR that I had been afraid to read because it was like this big, and it turned out to be one of my favorite reads of the year. The Power also came back on my birthday, which was pretty awesome. I didn't expect to have several bouts of writer's block this year, or that I'd decide to put Slightly Supernatural on the back burner for a bit. But it's given me the opportunity to branch out and keep myself from getting pigeonholed in one story and one world. And the breathing space has been good because I realize I still want to keep writing that story and work in that world. But before I put it on the back burner, I was starting to feel a little bit smothered by it. So I'm glad I took the time to broaden my horizons and work on the story I'm working on now, because it gave me the space I need to feel confident that that story is still worth working on. I definitely didn't plan to break the same toe twice in 1 year. Possibly 3 times, because I hit a door really hard on Christmas and it still really hurts. Or to pinch that nerve in my back. That really sucked. But those injuries forced me to slow down, which allowed me to read a lot more books than I usually read in a year. And it also kind of made me feel a little bit closer to my sister-in-law, because some of those books that I read while I was down, I shared with her. So that was nice. I wasn't terribly consistent on Instagram, but it still led me to some cool people. A couple of videos I did on this channel did really well, which sparked a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and that was really neat. I didn't think I'd ever completely cut ties with a writing challenge that almost started to feel like a part of my personality, but it brought me to another community filled with passionate individuals. I've gotten some of those people on Instagram now, so yeah, I definitely did not expect to get a 4th cat. But Naja turned out to be the buddy that Hexus needed. And despite the whole getting stuck in the attic twice in a week thing, she's a really sweet cat, even if she does go under the couch sometimes and swipe at my ankles. It's hard to be positive about Willow's neck thing, but at least she takes the medicine well, and she's getting a lot better. Friday is, as always, my grumpy fat man. And while I love him, I'm eternally grateful he is not the one I have to give the medicine to. So I'd say 2024 was a pretty good year, all things considered. And I'm genuinely intrigued to see what 2025 has in store for us. I wanted to say thanks to everybody who has watched any of my videos and enjoyed them, and an even bigger thanks to anybody who decided to come back. If you're new, my name is Jennifer McPeak, and I'm an unpublished author that is working toward creating a writing career. If you'd like to follow me on this writing journey, and I would love if you did, I post new videos here every other Wednesday, and I talk about reading, writing, arts and crafts, and anything else I feel like sharing. And before any of us complains about the craziness of our seasons, we should at least be thankful we don't live on Uranus, where a season is 21 years long. That's right. 1 year on Uranus is 84 Earth years, which means that each season lasts for 21 years. Right now it's late spring there, with northern summer due in 2028. What that means in terms of its climate, I have no idea. But imagine having to deal with pollen season for 21 years. I wouldn't survive. And with that, I bid you adieu. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Later!
La la la, clicky keyboard noises. La la la, keyboard noises.